what we have here is a Tx-300. It's in relatively good shape. Faceplate is a little faded, but I think we can get that to come back. The power wires leave a lot to be desired, and so do our coax connectors. They're pretty straight effed off. We're going to run through a series here, you guys, of quite a few amplifiers that got sent up here for the customer wants to sell them, and then he's going to build wants to build, do, or something different. So we're going to start that liquidation process now. So hold on, there's many, 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 many more things to come. Like I said, we're going to start here. It's a Tx-300. It's relatively close to stock. This does have a set of 2879 Toshibas in it, by the way, legit Toshibas. And my job here, as I see it today, is to restore this mostly to its former glory, because let's face it, it's hard to make things as good as new, but we're going to get pretty close. This amplifier came with this aluminum case that has been broken and fits very well on top of this amp. So I'm going to sand this back. We're going to shoot some primer on it, shoot some paint on it. We'll probably do that completely off video. But when we come back, we're going to take a good look at the inside of this. Well, actually, we can probably do that right this second. We've got melted ground wire, melted positive lead with electrical tape on it. These leads are really too short for me to send it off to somebody else to use. It's a simple 2-pill. It desperately needs to be cleaned up and given a bath. And we're going to give it a little bit of love. We're going to get cleaned up. We're going to put some power wires on it. Like I said, the anodized coating on this is not too bad. For some reason, there's a switch on the fan. We're going to look into that. Yeah, we're just going to give it a bath. But for the most part, I think we're good to go. We're going to power it up. We'll run it. And it's missing some stuff like the flyback circuits that need to be in here. We'll build those, and we'll build those to their specs. And I say this at the beginning of most of the videos for this particular guy and this particular build set. I wish he was still around. I wish he was still in business, and I wish he was still making these, because these little guys kick ass. They really do. All right, let's get started. I don't really know what was in this heatsink, but I've got this foaming agent that I put in here, and then I hit it with a Tordor, which is called a tornado detailing tool. And the brown orange stuff that came out of the heatsink and the fan was just amazing. I had to clean it 3 or 4 times, but we got it to come back real clean. So now we can proceed forward with the restoration work, which obviously, these things kick ass, by the way, obviously is going to require new power wire completely. So we'll just go ahead and cut these. And we're going to put new coax connectors on it. The lid took paint. So let me get the power wire replaced. Some of this stuff I'm not kind of liking how it looks, because this is not stock. I'm probably going to rework that, and we're going to change the coax connectors, and we'll be back. Well, we've hooked it up. It does work. The transistors work, but oh shoot, I disconnected it for safety reasons here. Okay, so we've got on indicator. Until a minute ago, we didn't have any preamp light. AM and sideband switch is working, and low, medium, and high is working. It's working a little wonky on low. I'm going to work that out here in a minute. But the preamp light, you guys all know my affection for having to take the face off these things. Don't want to do it. So I was delighted to find out that it was a cold solder joint. Now the preamp does not work at this time, which is this transistor right here. Okay. Whoopee! TV antenna. Okay. It's the transistor that drives the bias relay, this is the key in transistor, and then this one here is the preamp. It is a PMP version, so that means we're going to replace it with a PMP version transistor, and we're going to see if we can get it to come back and get us a preamp. As soon as that is done, then I'm going to come back here and I got to get low to work a little bit better. Right now you put like 10 watts in it and you get 15 watts out. You put it on high, you get 400 watts out. You put it on medium, you get 350 watts out. Low, doesn't do shit. So, with bad resistor or yet another bad connection. I haven't looked at this yet. I've been focused on getting that LED working, which these amps work great, but they are a pain in the butt to take apart. Just saying. So, moving on up, let's change some transistors out. So here's our old relay, and I replaced the op-amp transistor that was in here, and then I went and I tested it, and it was good. And I went, me thinks something else is wrong. So then we look at the circuit and we find out that this wire right here, yeah, this one here, is what carries the 12 volt current from the, or 12 volt voltage from this switch. When you flip this big hunky switch, it drops down through a wire, goes across the board through a trace, and it pops up over here. This is what feeds 12 volts to the circuit on the positive side. On the negative side, we use this transistor that's right here. Focus there, camera. Thank you. So all of our receive passes through this little relay, okay? RF coming in, going out, goes through this relay. Well, when you kick on the switch, this transistor is passing ground all the time until you key up. When you put in your input signal, then this transistor fires down and it switches out and it pulls the ground off of this side of the relay. Okay, so your RF would come in, let's say, just in theory, comes in on this post, and when the preamp's off, it passes through these two posts, cycles out, and goes back out this wire. Goes back out this wire here, okay? But when we engage the relay or engage the preamp, your RF pass-through signal goes through this capacitor and goes into this amplifier circuit and then pops back out and goes out that wire. Okay. So it loops in, let's say it works in reverse. So it loops in and passes through and goes out here. Well, when we turn this on, it goes click, connects to this relay, or this connection goes out to here, this connection goes out to here. Somebody at some point in the life of this amp went and put super glue on this thing because it was probably just held down by its wire connections, thinking they were doing something good for this situation, and what they did is they actually glued the relay contacts in the receive position. So we can change transistors and shove shit in here till we're blue in the face. This relay mechanically is now frozen. So we've got this little 5 amp relay. Now remember, there's very little pressure that's on this relay. It's not on the output side of the circuit. Even though it's close to the output side, this trace goes over and goes to the relay. This here is all on the receive side. So your 35 watts that come in from your radio, 40 watts that come in from your radio, is what passes through this relay. So it's very low watts. There's a difference between this relay and this relay. This is a non-polar directional relay. It doesn't care where the 12 volts come in, what's positive, what's negative. This relay, on the other hand, does care. This side here is ground and this side here is hot. Well, the way this current circuit is set up is that it's set up for this to be ground and this to be hot. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take this little wire off right here. I'm going to have to extend it to make it go here. This resistor is going to have to attach to this pin. this resistor is now going to have to attach to that pin. All I got to do is flip-flop the legs and then solder everything else in. So now, because this is a sealed relay, I actually went ahead and I glued this in. And what you're looking at here, all this liquid that's here, is the Insta-Cure. Now have faith, before I go and solder anything, I'm going to reach over there and grab the hot air gun and go and evaporate all of that. But as just explaining to you what happened, I don't need this diode anymore because there's one internally on the inside of the relay, which is what makes it directional, by the way. It's lame, but it is what it is. These little boogers have gotten a little bit expensive in the last couple years. This relay that does the same job and carries the same amount of watts, volts, whatever, is about $3 or $4, or this is like 25 or 30 for this exact kind of specific model. And don't anybody get too excited, because you can probably get on eBay, which I have not done. You could probably go find that exact same freaking relay that somebody's got out there used, or NOS sold stock, but they found it in grandpa's basement and they're selling it for like $2. That's, I don't have time to wait for that shit, so away we go. Oh man, this is a lot of fun. Okay, let's start here. You see this gobbledygook here that's here? We're gonna go down a technical rabbit hole for a minute. So I go in here and I replace the relay. Yippee skippy dippy doo. We get it in here. And of course I go to engage the preamp. I flip this switch and nothing happens. So I go back and I probe the relay. And this is what makes this circuit interesting, is that this switch up here drops hot 12 volt back here. And I think I covered that in the last segment. Well, all I had to do was flip-flop the leads, I thought. Well, I flip-flopped the leads, and I flip-flopped the leads that fed this circuit here. And I had no relay love. Now, this whole amplifier, it uses a 2N, what is it? 3906 for the keying transistor over here. So it works on a PNP circuit. But for this to be a hot switch, it's got to be an NPN circuit. It has to be. I mean, I've spent a little bit of time thinking about how I could wire this to make this work, and there's no way to make this work in this configuration. This is not stock. This is something somebody else has added in. So after about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of bumbly fucking around with that, I decided, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I know. And I recognize that this is a negative switch device, okay? But what it needs to have is a continuous, when this switch is engaged here, what it's looking for is a continuous ground return, but then it needs to have that signal lifted. And I went, well, man, it sure sounds like a 2N222 to me. So I put the 2N222 in here, and it would work. You could turn this on, and a preamp would come up a little bit, and it would stay, you key it, you just bump the key switch and it would stay in transmit. And I'm like, okay, so we have a ground return loop that's going on. It was backfeeding from the transistor back onto the switch rail on the PNP on the keying side, and it was pulling everything to ground all the time. And I'm like, man, this don't seem right. So then I went back over and I played with the PNP keying circuit again and ignored this NPN. I really got to thinking about it, like, man, this is like the simplest thing in amp building. This is like amp building 101. Why am I having and that dawned on me. I've had a lot of really stressful things hit me here in this last week, like a lot. And I'm here to tell you what my family's been through and what's going on with the loss that my family and I have experienced. It got me kind of scatterbrained, right? So I had to sit here and think about it for a hot minute. And then it finally dawned on me, what happens if I put a little bit of resistance between these two transistors? Maybe I'm getting a little bit of a backfeed of signal. And what I found is when I got around 3K worth of resistance, all of a sudden everything laid down, started working just the way it should. Now, I also changed this from the 2N3906 to the really nice super high-end 2N2907. This is our transistor that controls our preamp, as far as its amplification goes. The 2N, God, I can't keep the numbers even straight. 3906 in my head. I can't keep anything straight in my head right now. The 3906 is an actual switch transistor. So there's no attention paid to the quality of the signal over noise floor that it creates, as far if you're going to use it in this particular location as like an amplifier. So the 29 or 2706, 2907 that I put in here has got an incredibly low noise floor. Like, it's like 30 or 40 or 50 dBm down. Don't quote me on that. Like I said, brain's kind of scattered. Very, very low noise floor. Where the other transistor's a switch, so it's gonna rectify, you know, a whole lot more signal than it is over noise. Okay. So then I spent probably 15 minutes trying to figure out, well, why don't I have a lot of preamp noise? And then it finally clicked in my head. It's because you upgraded the transistor, you dumbass. I initially thought it was just the transistor was bad. Well, come to find out it was a combination of bad transistor, super glued together relay, and then a circuit that would have never worked. But I'm here to tell you today, turn that on now. It's very slight. Listen to this. Hopefully that translates, but this is repaired now. The whole preamp circuit works the way it's supposed to. So now, what I get to go play with is the low, medium, and high circuit. The low circuit is this resistor here. The medium circuit is this resistor here. And then the high circuit is this resistor here. I know this one's right. I know this one's right just by looking at the input reflect and what it's doing correlated over here on a watt meter. But low, one, that's too small of a resistor, and it's also too big. It's just way too big. It's not letting anything through it at all. At all. And I mean like nothing. High works awesome. Medium works okay. Low sucks the big donkey horsecock. So I'm gonna change this resistor out. And then I'm pretty sure that we'll be ready to wrap this up. Oh, and on a side note, because everything in here is a NPN, the entire circuit works backwards. It's literally like they've got everything wired backwards. Instead of putting the resistor for the bias post relay, so like you switch the 12 volt going into the resistor and then have that, no. The 12 volt feed comes directly off the on-off switch, goes through the resistor, then goes through the relay, and then on the other side of the relay, then we have our diode and our load, and then it finds its way back over here to the input transformer. A lot of this stuff is just wired backwards from what we're all commonly used to thinking. So, it is what it is. We're one little tiny step closer to being done. Okay, yay. So here we have 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 on average, 5 watt slug and reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. We've got in line right now the RCI 2950 that of course you all know. Everybody that watches this channel knows that I've got detuned down to do at 15 volts at a whole whopping 25, maybe 30-ish watts, 28 watts. Okay, what do you go? 28 watts going in. We're going to turn the amp on. It's in low, okay? Low. Hold on. Focus. Fuck. Okay. So we see it's in low. Let's go over here. Let's look at a watt meter. What do you go? About 180 watts on low. 1, 2. Now, gentlemen, don't forget this amp was built for a different time in a different era. Let's go to medium. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. About 380 watts. And now let's go to high. About 420-ish. 1, 2. That is with a baseline carrier of 1 watt going in. On high is producing, looking at this watt meter now, about 2.5 watts of carrier, 2 watts of carrier, I mean. Medium, half a watt, low, nothing. So on high, let's turn this up a little bit. Still nothing. 1.5 watts, 1/4 watt, we'll say 5 watts. So the 1.25 watts going in. So we raised this up to where most radios were actually set at way back in the day. We go down to low. The 3 watts going in, making a 1/2 watt coming out. It's perfect. Medium is 10 watt carrier and high is 30 watt carrier. Looking over here now. 30, 10, about a 1/2 watt. The 3 watt carrier going in it. That's perfect. So we're sucking up an awful lot of power in this bank of resistors. And I was wrong. This is the 100 ohmer, but it's what controls our low setting is this resistor here. It says 100 ohmer, but when you put it on the resistance meter, it's nothing, way out of spec. So just went ahead and replaced it with it. 2 5 watt resistors in parallel, which gets us 50 ohms. This is a 15 ohm, and then course high is directly passed straight through. So, and real quick before I run away, this is a 5 watt slug in reverse between the amp and the Rodeo. This is the amplifier on high. And here's the amplifier off. Good pass through and fairly decent input SWR. Remember, this amplifier was not designed to have a 100 watt radio driven into it ever. It's a 25 or 35 watt peak power amp. That's it. It's like your Cobra 29, your 148, something like that, that you're going to have a 2 or 3 watt carrier on. Saying 25, 30 watts max, okay? They put the lid on it, and it turned out well. The lid turned out really, really pretty. I don't know why I'm bragging about this because it was just bare aluminum when I started, but it's turned out well. Very pretty. So I'm tickled. This looks good. Let's put it on here and let's get this ready to go. This thing doesn't look half bad now. It's all cleaned up, put back together. Every switch works, every LED works, everything works the way it's supposed to. There's a little switch on the side of the thing that turns the fan on and off. This is a big ass hunk of heat sink for this little tiny amp. It's a 2-pill, 22879 Toshibas. Please keep in mind its bigger brother, which looks an awful lot like this. This is a Tx-300 that we're getting ready to go through next. Has the exact same footprint, and it's got 3 more transistors in it. Now, this is a put in the trunk and turn on and forget you even got it in the trunk kind of thing. Or Velcro it to the bottom of your radio. Anyhow, gentlemen, I want to say thanks for following along and tuning in. We are asking $550 plus the ride for this little guy. And that's because of the Toshibas that are in it. It makes it worth a little bit more money. But $550 plus the ride. And I'll probably even throw in a free shirt. Maybe we'll see. Depends. I'm running a little low on 6Xs. Whew. There's some big boys in this radio community we got. I'm here to tell you. But gentlemen, the Tx-300. Repaired, restored, and working. New power wire, new preamp circuit, new flybacks, been washed, been cleaned, new high, medium, low adjustment. Everything on it works perfectly as advertised. On that note, you guys know the number. First one to call, first one to text gets it. I'm out of here. Big shout out to Siglant, Excess Power, Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, MechMan Alternators. I want to big thanks to my Patreons. I appreciate everybody. My Patreon group. I did a big old post today about what my family's currently going through. So the guys on Patreon, they know what's up. I want to say thanks to those guys for being patient and understanding that, yet once again, outside things that caused everything to slow down over here, but it is what it is. Big shout out to everybody on Facebook and the BBI Amps group that was wanting to throw down your support and understanding that there has been an abrupt life change over here for some of us. And the shit that comes from that just rolls downhill, and I had to be there for my family. So on that note, gentlemen, I'll see you. I appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to go do some other cool shit. I'll see you. Click, click.